I was delivering mail. I just got through completing a long block, and I was getting ready to load up and go for another walk around the next block. I heard a woman screaming, or a woman yelling, and dogs barking. The same voice, her voice getting louder, and then the dogs getting more and more agitated. And then I hear the lady screaming, and the dogs are just tearing into something. Just sounds absolutely horrible. I heard this happening. I thought it was coming from a certain area that I'd just been. So I put my stuff down, closed up my vehicle, and ran in the direction where I thought the dog was. And it turns out it's coming from the alley. So I ran down the alley, second house down. I could see through the chain link fence that had metal slats going through it. I could barely see through it. I could see that there was a lot of activity going on the other side. The lady's screaming, no, 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 and I see the dogs. The dogs are just horrible sounding, just tearing into something. So I climbed the top of the fence to get a better view. I see a lady laying on her back with 3 dogs. She's got one hand on one dog. The other dogs they're dogs going all different directions. And she's still screaming out, and she's still saying, no, no, no. And there's blood on her, there's blood on the dogs. I get my phone. I'm still on the top of the fence. I'm holding myself up on the top of the fence. Get my phone out, and I call 911, and I go ahead and drop down. And shortly thereafter, at one point I had tried spraying the dogs with my dog spray also. It didn't have much of effect. The only effect was when I did get to the top of the fence, they saw me, and all 3 of them looked at me, and then it, a quick pause, and then they went back at whatever they're biting at. So anyways, the phone call with 911, they had the police coming, and they showed up in a quick time, probably like a minute or so. Police officers showed up at the front of the house. I told I was still at the back of the house in the alley. The operator said, okay, I'll let you go now. The police officer's there. I said, okay. And so I closed up my phone, started to run around. I was going to get to the front where I could go through the front. The police officer had already hopped the fence there, and as soon as he hopped the fence, the dogs, I guess, came after him, and he shot one. And as soon as he shot one, the other dog took off into the house, and the other dog stayed with the lady, the one that she was holding. And so the police officer, he says, she's okay, and I asked the woman if she was okay, and she's still really heavily out of breath. She's sitting on the ground. She's still holding on to one dog. The dog seems to be quite tired, I guess, and there's blood on everybody. No telling if it was her blood, the dog's blood, or what was going on. The more officers showed up soon after that. This all happened so quickly, and so the police were there ready to take care of everything. And so I said, okay, is it okay to go? And they said, yes, please, go ahead and go. And so I went and finished my route. As I finished the route, about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes later, I had to come back through the same neighborhood in order to get back to the post office. And that's when I saw that there were still police cars there, ambulances, and the news crew was there. And so as I drove through, I asked, is the lady okay? And then that's when I was approached by the news cameraman, a news reporter, but then a plainclothes police officer came and took over and got my statement, and I still managed to make it back in 8 hours. So it worked out okay. As it turned out, I found out later that, a couple days later, 2-3 days later, that the one dog was hers, the other 2 dogs belonged to her kids, which the dogs still stayed there at the house. The mother dog was a pit bull mix, and the pups were pit bull mastiffs, which were much larger than the mother dog. I guess they were in the backyard together. I didn't mention this either. The lady was in a wheelchair. She was able to walk, but she's got a bad knee, so she can't walk but maybe a step or 2, so she's in a wheelchair. She was in the backyard with the dogs, and I guess there was a rat that was in the back of the yard in a wood pile, and the dogs were going after the rats, and that's what got them in this frenzy, and they just start attacking each other. And so the lady, I guess, tried to break them up, and so she ended up on the ground with them on top of her. And when I first saw it, I didn't know what to think. And of course, the next day, thinking that, okay, well, it was her own dogs. She shouldn't have been involved, but they're her dogs. She, I guess at one point was able to control them, but I guess once they started going into the frenzy, she had no control. So she had already thrown her chair at them. She tried pulling the dogs apart, and so she ended up getting attacked herself a bit. She got bit several times, so she had to go to the hospital for stitches and wound cleanup and whatnot. I sure didn't want to be there. I'd had a dog bite myself, and so I know how powerful they can be and how quickly damage can be done. So I had no desire to be around the dogs, but I had to do something. Can't just let that kind of thing happen. I was thankful that at least I was there to help in the capacity that I could. The neighbors, I guess I don't know if they heard anything, or not until the gunshot, I guess. Because there's a lot of dogs in the neighborhoods, and so people hear dogs all the time, but the screaming was quite loud too. I remember thinking before I ran over there, I don't want to do this because I have to overcome my own fear of dogs. I don't know if it's a fear or more of a respect. But like I said, something needed to be done. And so, and she was very thankful. I talked to her a couple days after the incident, and she was very thankful. She was a bit in remorse that the dog had to be killed, but she wasn't real happy with the dog. She didn't believe that she could have that dog anymore anyways if it had already crossed the line. So, but yeah, she was thankful. She was still hurting from the accident a couple days later. So we're out there all the time. We're familiar with the people. Some of them we're closer with, some not. We're everybody's friend, and you're there, and these things kind of happen because we're out there every day, and you happen to walk into it.